everybody. How you doing? There we go. How you doing? It's Jeff Colson, Junior Hockey Advisor. It is Monday night, and it's 8 o'clock. I know it's not our normal time. You just have to bear with me as I'm moving. Many of you know I've downsized. My wife and I have downsized to a smaller place, and it's been difficult. When you make a move at my age, after living in the same place for almost 25 years, and you have two kids that are gone either at college or on with their life, you end up accumulating all their things too and moving them too. So it's been a little difficult. I appreciate you all hanging in there. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be with you. Got a lot of things I want to cover tonight that you've been asking for, and we'll also get to your questions. Feel free to jump in with comments at any time. Already I see there's some comments coming in. Tell me where you're at. Tell me what where you're watching from. Put a little comment in there about what kind of player you got, or if you're a player, who you are, what position. If you want to throw your comments up, your questions up. We will have a blast tonight. We've got a lot of things to talk about. It's good to see some people coming in. We've got Danielle coming in from South Carolina first. We've got some questions coming in from Caesar, and just good to see some of the people back. Good to see you back. Glad you're with us. Hey, we got a lot of stuff going on. I think you've noticed if you've been at the Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube page, Junior Hockey Advisor Facebook page, we've created some new content. Over the last few months, we've started to add one-on-one interviews with some great people. We've had Jason Deskins on, who is a general manager for a USHL team. We've had, Michael Hermbrat. If you're waiting for him, I promised you Michael Hermbrat. That's my fault, the editing process. We're going to re-interview Michael in the near future here. Let's see, who else do we have on? We had Adam Phillips on, who is the assistant coach in Muskegon in the USHL. We had Dan Wildfung on, probably one of our most popular interviews on. We had Dan on is our initial one, and that was a fantastic interview. So we got one-on-ones coming on. Go to YouTube, grab those, watch them. All kinds of great content there for you. We also added something new last week, and it'll come again. It debuted last week, but it's going to come on again this next week. And I think I have this. It's going to look like what happened here? It's going to look, forget that. It's going to look like this. And it's Junior Hockey Live. That doesn't quite fit. There we go. And all Junior Hockey Live is we're going to talk about the junior hockey world from how teams are doing, where players are from, how they are in the standings, little background on some coaches, little background on some players. But we're going to review all the leagues. We're going to go through. Last week we did the USHL and NAL. I'll post tomorrow what leagues we're going to cover on Wednesday. But we're going to pick a couple leagues every week. We're going to talk about some players in the league. We're going to talk about some teams in the league, some key matchups for the weekend, and it'll be a great Wednesday night. So we'll do that every Wednesday night. I believe we're going to do that at 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights. And as much as I can, I'm going to try to stay on a Sunday night schedule for this broadcast as much as I can. And if I don't, I'll probably pre-broadcast or record a broadcast for that Sunday night slot so we can keep going. Hey, let's say hi to some people, then we get rolling. I got a lot of stuff to cover. It's good to see Andrew on. Andrew from Elmira's on. We've got Kirk coming on from Ohio. We've got Rockville, Maryland on. We've got Michael on from the Buffalo Regals U16 team. Just saw them the other day. I have a 15-year-old D-man that must go with Rockville, I hope. We've got a Brewster Prep person on. We've got Caesar, Junior A, and the OJHL. And I know the OJHL, we were doing some talk about it today. We're going to feature them either this week or next week. So we're not just going to focus on Tier 1 and Tier 2 in the United States. We're going to cover the CGHL. We're going to cover the BCHL. We're going to cover Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 in the United States. I don't know if we'll be able to get into the Junior B level of Canada, and I'm not sure. We do some crossover stuff with some of the OHL teams and some of, I should say, the CHL, OHL, WHL, and Q, but that's to give you some perspective on how things work. separately in Canada than they do in the United States. For example, uh, people often ask me, why does a kid choose to go to the OHL? And I'd say, well, a lot of it's cultural, because if you grow up in Ontario and you get a chance to play for a team in the OHL, there's a lot of pride wearing that jersey. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of family that you're close to. You get to stay a little closer to home. And although the statistics may push towards other leagues now, it's still a great league. A Canadian family may not look at the losing of the NCAA Division I path and voiding that out of your ability to go play there as much as an American family. American family might put that a little bit higher on the pedestal, American player family, than a Canadian. So a lot of times it's trying to explain the differences in the way people see things, perspective. So a lot of Canadians have no problem at all, and most Canadians have no problem at all jumping into one of the major junior leagues, because it's the history, it's the tradition, it's being a superstar in your local town or close to your local town, and it's different here. We don't have the same kind of junior model or history or even pride. Even though a lot of people are very proud of their junior programs, it just isn't the same. So we do throw that in from time to time. Listen, I listed the things I want to talk about. I'm going to get to them. I will get to your questions. Sue, let's see if we got any thing coming on here. So we got a question about an advisor. I'll get to that in a little bit later. We'll get into that stuff. I'm going to just expand my screen so I can read it a little bit here. Yeah, we've got a couple questions I can get to later. Once again, you can ask questions at any time. I'm monitoring the texts as they come in, but I'll try to stay on one topic at a time, since I don't want to jump around. First thing we want to talk about, a lot of you had questions. Showcases are starting. Showcases are running everywhere. Oh, I better make sure of one thing. Yeah, okay. Wanted to make sure my mic monitor was up properly. The one thing people are talking about are showcases. How do I get noticed at showcases? What are showcases for? Well, depends on the league, but I've already been to several showcases this year. Probably the biggest showcase I was at was the Blaine NAPHL showcase. Very, very big event because it's going on with the NAHL teams, and it's going on with the NAPHL, the U18 teams too. So you spend 3 or 4 days up there, you get a sense of how, if you don't know how scouts work, you can really learn a lot by just sitting outside of the scouts room. Okay. And what I mean by that is there's a huge area in Blaine set aside for scouts. They serve you lunch in there. You can pick up all the information for scouting there. But it doesn't matter if you're there to scout the null, because remember, all the D1s are there. Many D3 schools are there too. And you've got some NHL presentation. Then you've got junior levels, mostly tier 2 junior, meaning there is some USHL there, but it's mostly the scouts that work for the NAHL teams watching the U18s. So if you're sitting outside the door, just watch the flow and where they go, because you've got 4 rinks right there. You can see where they go, and you can see top teams. I'm going to repeat that. Top teams. If you want to see where the scouts go, they'll go to the top teams first. Okay? They'll watch the top teams first. Why? Top teams are top teams for a reason. Probably got good coaching on a top team. Probably got good talent there. Good coaching, good talent. There's opportunities there. Now, they're not going to go watch a lot. They might breeze through, but they're not going to go watch bottom team versus bottom team unless they've been prompted. Now, remember that word I just said, prompted. Okay, how does somebody get prompted? Well, a scout could be called, when I say a scout, it could be a D1 coach scouting. It could be a junior scout. It could be a player development director scouting. It could be an assistant coach scouting for either a college or a junior team. But keep this in mind. Prompting is just as important as them watching the game, cold, just a cold call. What I mean by that is when a coach walks in cold call, he might have the rosters, but there's no history, there's no homework done on that game. That happens quite a bit, but not everybody does it that way. A lot of people do their homework. They find out who their top guys are. They call the coaches first. They actually have a plan on who they're going to watch in that game. That's the better the better scouting programs usually walk in with a plan. They walk in and say, watching this. Now, if there's more than one set of eyes on there, maybe the scout is watching with a plan. Maybe the head coach goes, I just want to come in and just see what catches my eye. So they've got two people sitting in different places watching the game, maybe sitting next to each other. But that's not uncommon either, where you want different opinions. You don't want to spoil the outcome by talking about the players beforehand. You want to talk about them afterwards. That's a very common way of doing this too. But that prompting, how do you get prompted? Well, so you can either do it by the coach or the person that's scouting actually doing some homework, or you can get involved, and you can get involved by actually prompting too. That's how you get on the list. When I walk into a rink, if I've got a list in this hand that's all the players I want to watch, I've got a list in this hand right here with all the players that asked me to watch them. Okay, I'm not going to give them equal time unless it's warranted. In other words, the guys I want to watch, I'm going to focus on watching. But I'm also cognizant of players that reached out to us that said, hey, you're going to be at the showcase. If you're at the showcase, can you take a look at me? I'm very interested in your program. So yes, the answer is yes, we will. Now, you might get 3 shifts. You might get 1 shift. You might get 10 shifts. You might get a whole game. But we are going to watch you, and that's the same way most programs work. If even watching back in the day when Red Berenson was still coaching Michigan, he'd walk into a rink with the guys he wanted to watch. Usually that list was given to him by, some high-end advisors, some other coaches that he trusts that are out there coaching juniors, and he wants to watch this list. But he always had a secondary list. And that secondary list might be a couple kids that reached out to Michigan that said, hey, I'm also going to be at this showcase. Can you give me a look? He'd pop over, stand on the glass, give him a shift or 2. Okay, if there was nothing warranted, anything more, he'd check it off, say, yeah, watch him. He's just not ready for us at this point. Or he'd watch it and go, okay, I like that. I'm going to watch, or I'm going to give one of my assistant coaches the job to watch him again. And that's not uncommon. That's not uncommon at all to see that happen. So the question is, getting noticed at showcases, part of it is you doing your homework and actually doing some pre-work to set yourself up for success. Of course, you still have to have talent. Of course, you still have to have a good game. Of course, you have to showcase your ability. What you can actually do has to show up. But if you're, I can tell you this, if you haven't done any homework and it's an 8 a.m. game on Saturday, and all these scouts rolled in on Thursday or Friday, remember, scouts, this is a reunion for many scouts and many assistant coaches and even head coaches. There's a good chance after everything's over, they're going to go out and get dinner, have a pop or 2, and talk about the old times, catch up. So if you've got an 8 a.m. game and you haven't done your homework, they might roll in for that 8 a.m. game, and they've got their list. You can have a 4-goal game. You can have 3 assists that were unbelievable. You could have scored a Michigan goal, put it in the upper, pick the puck up, throw it in the upper corner like a lacrosse goal. And if they're watching their guys, they might not see any of it because you're not there on their list. They're there to watch certain players. So you've got to do your homework. You've got to reach out to coaches. You've got to make sure that you do this. Now, is it a guarantee? Absolutely not. But remember, this whole game is games of little incremental things that change a bias in the way that people see you, little incremental changes to move you into another level, little incremental changes to get more exposure. Most of the time, rarely does somebody walk into a rink and watch a kid one game and go, holy cool, I got to get this kid. I got to sign him today. That's usually not the way it works. Does it work that way sometimes? Of course it does. But anything you can do to help yourself, the better. Hopefully that helped a little bit. And so I'm going to lead into a little bit more. Sometimes when people are reaching out to teams, I don't know, we're getting hit with some new private dating chat stuff. I don't know how to get rid of that. Anybody knows how to get that gone from people. Well, I guess anybody can watch, right? So I guess, hey, dating chat guy, we're not going to post anything there, and I'm not really sure if anybody wants dating chat information, so I'm not going to throw that up on the screen, but we just got blitzed with a bunch of them on here. So anyway, when you send out video, excuse me, let me back up. When you're contacting coaches and you're sending that email out to make contact, email information is easy to get. You can go to team websites. You can go to college websites, junior websites. Most of the people have their emails on there. You can reach out to most there. Some of them, they have an info section, and I'm going to talk about that info section in a second. But I suggest keeping that email extremely simple. Hey, hello, my name's Jeff. I'm a left-wing defenseman. I'm 6'2". When I played, I was about 206. Okay, and here's who I'm playing for. I'm going to be at the showcase. I'd love you to watch. I've attached a video, okay? Now, when you attach that video, you don't need 10 minutes. You don't need 20 minutes. You don't need a full game. It used to be the comments were, I want to see your full video. That would be the coaches. Oh, send me your full video. I want to see the full video. No. Full videos are a dime a dozen now. I can get a full video on almost any game on Instat, or I can get it from the team. I can get it from the coach. I can get those fairly easy. Give me your highlights. Show me what you're about. Don't show me, your 4 goals over the last 8 years that you've scored if you're a defenseman. Show me how you break the puck out. Show me your goal if you got a good goal. Show me your regroup. Show me your one-on-ones. Show me your two-on-ones. Show me how you play on the special teams, power play, penalty kill. But it could be 15 seconds of each one. You don't have to go crazy on this. It could be 3 or 4 things. Circle yourself with some assistance. Use some graphics from whatever program you're using. Put a circle around yourself and point to yourself, or at least point out so the coach isn't pulling up and going, I can't see the numbers. I don't know which kid this is. If you're going to show up a forecheck, say forecheck. Just put the word forecheck up. Point an arrow at yourself and let it go. You don't have to keep the arrow on the whole time or a circle on you the whole time. Just show the coach where it starts out from. Back check. Boom. Put the word back check on there. Put an arrow on yourself. Show that 10 or 15 seconds. Okay, you score a goal. Say goal off one-timer. Say one-timer goal. Whatever you want to say. Point an arrow to yourself. Boom. Show it. Show 5-10 seconds of the goal. Move on. You put a few of those together like that. Now you're golden. Now you're literally golden. You've got the opportunity now to put a little short clip together that is just there to whet the appetite. For somebody to go, oh, wow, look at that kid plays his one-on-ones really well. That kid can skate. That kid is big. That kid is fast, whatever it is. Now remember, if you want to play in the USHL, you need to be 9 or 10s in multiple categories, meaning you have to be the best at what you do in multiple categories, meaning the top 1 to 5%. You want to play in Tier 2, you've got to have a 9 or a 10 in a few categories. Tier 3, you can get away without being a 9 or a 10, but you're not going to play at the NAL level, or you're not going to play at the BCHL level. You're not going to play at the USHL level without 9 and 10s, for your age group, for your level of whatever team you're playing for. You have to stand out. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Any questions or any comments on that? I would love to hear what you're saying about that. Let's see what's coming in here. Okay. Frank asked the question, how do you find the best NHLPA certified agent for someone playing NCAA, especially for Hockey East? A couple ways to do that. And then it says, continued, he is an American and European passport, received pro offers from Tier 1 leagues, but is staying the NCAA route for now. Okay. Frank, great question. There's a few ways to do it. One is on Elite Prospects. You can pull up Elite Prospects. I'm going to see if I can pull this up for you. And if I can, all right, let's get over here. Bingo, I've got Elite Prospects up. Now, if I go into Elite Prospects, I can actually come up to Agent Portal right here. And if I pull up the Agent Portal, and now I have the, whatever it is, the premium level plan here. So it costs me $8 or $9 a month. I would highly suggest it for anybody that's involved in hockey at whatever level. Now, this agent portal allows me to see how many clients each firm has, and not only that, but when you click on them, and I'm just going to pick one out. Okay, this is the Bartlett firm. They're local to me, but they're an NHL level firm. But what it does is when I pull it up, I know I know Steve Bartlett. These are his two sons. They have affiliates because they've got some European connections there. So, but they're based in Pittsford. That's the town I'm from, right here in Rochester area, Western New York. But here, slide down a little bit, and now you can see everybody that they represent. That's a pretty big name to start off with right there. Cal Makar. I think I've heard of that guy. Yeah, he's got almost 1 million views. So I'm making fun of that because he's a pretty big name. But you can see they've got the Coyotes, University of Minnesota, Buffalo Sabres, Vancouver Canucks, Minnesota Wild, and Rochester Americans. You can keep going down the list. They've got a great stable of players, and their NHL drafted clients, 30 out of their 46. Their NHL clients are 31, and their most viewed clients, you can pull that up too. The only reason I'm showing them is, first of all, they come find you on that one. You can reach out to them, but they usually find their own clients, meaning that's the way the top firms work. Now, I say that, and I'll go back here. Easy to grab that agent portal. It's right at the top of Elite Prospects, not My Hockey Rankings. Right up here again in the middle of the page. I hope you can see where my finger is. Agent portal, boom, hit that, and you can go in and you can look at all the different ones. Now, what's interesting when you do this, if you're looking at that level, now that's somebody that's not looking for a family advisor. If you're not coming to the end of or mid to the end of your your Division I experience, you're not looking for an agent yet. You're looking for an advisor. Now, you can look for an advisor that is a hybrid firm that will transition you into the agency. But remember, nobody in college can have an agent until after their college experience is done, when they start working for a contract. So, yes, there are firms out there. Many firms will be a family advisor. They might have an affiliate firm. They might just have a Chinese wall in their own firm saying, we have restrictions on what we can do as an advisor versus an agent. Advisors advise. They have to be paid up in front. You have to be compensated at the level you're at. It can't be $1 contract. Okay, it has to be compensated at the level that all the advisors get at that level. There's still a range. Some advisors work for $1,500 a year. Some work for $10,000 a year. That's your business on what advisor to get. However, you can't sign a contract with an advisor or an agent that says, I will work for your future wages. I will work for a piece of your contract. If he's a better player, I will work for a part of your NIL deal. It doesn't work that way. You can't do that. You have to keep them separate. So the NIL thing, that's a whole different discussion. But if hockey players aren't really big into NIL yet, some are at some of the bigger schools, but not anywhere near what football and basketball are. So hopefully that helped a little bit. Good luck with that. But the way to do it is to jump on, and then you do like anything else. If you want to buy a car, you check out the different cars out there and what features and benefits each one has. Same here. I would write down exactly what you're looking for on a piece of paper. And then I would start with a list that, I'd probably start with a list of the firms that have the most clients at the level I think I can play at. Now, if you think you're going to play in the NHL, most likely, they're talking to you already. If you're an American and you think you're going to play in the NHL at a high level, you're already at the National Development Program, because they're going to take the top 25 kids, top 30 kids, top 50 kids, and they're all going to funnel through there. By age, it's about 20, 23 kids per age level that'll go through the National Development Program. So if you're not in the National Development Program, you're probably not an American that is going in the first round. You're going to be a second round through 8th round or whatever, So just a little bit of information on that. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Going back to see what else we've got here to see if there's questions that are relative. Okay, Kurt says my son is a null tender, but didn't report to training camp due to an injury. Okay, here's a great question, and then I'm going to get back to the list of some other things I told you I'd get to today. Kurt says, let me get me back up into the. There we go. Kirk says, my son is a null tender, but didn't report to training camp due to an injury. Then he goes on to say, have learned he was put on the defective list. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything at this point, Kurt. If you didn't report to camp, what happens on any USHL or null team, you can be drafted, you can be tendered. That gets you to main camp. Your goal at main camp is to get put on the roster to lead you into training camp in the fall. Okay, so when in late August, September, when the team reports for the season, you want to be on that roster going into that part of the year. Then the roster gets trimmed down again from there. So if 27-30, depending on what league, kids make the summer roster, when fall gets here, September, late August, September gets here, as the season gets rolling in the first few games, that roster will get cut down to 27. Then it'll get cut down to 25. And then I believe the USHL runs 23. If I'm wrong, correct me, but it's 23, 25. So then you're officially on the roster. If you're not on the name coming out of main, or if you're not on the roster coming out of main camp, now you could miss the camp and the team can call you and say, hey, I get it, you were injured. We are still going to keep you on the list. That's different. And then you're on the roster, and then they could potentially put you on basically just like the pros do, injured reserve, IR. But it doesn't sound like that's your case right now. You're free to go. I'm assuming if he's not playing on that null team, he went back to whatever level he was playing at, 16s or 18s or a different junior league. Hopefully that helped. You put up in the comments. If it didn't, be glad to explain that a little bit more if I can. All right, so let's get on to the next topic. I also want to jump on and see if we've got comments coming in on different forums here. Don't want myself on there. I don't need myself on there. I got to learn how to shut that off. There we go. Okay, we got other comments coming in here. Let's see. Hey, Dave, say hey to Dave. Dave's on all. Dave's our first person to get involved with this board. Dave Kennedy, great man. He's the one that runs the goalie scholarship, which I believe is unfortunately in its past last year, but he's been doing that for several years, and it's been phenomenal to see the amount of work the gentleman's put into that. Let's see, Kathy, good to see you. Nancy, good to see you. Dale, good to see you. So we got a lot of people coming on that don't show up on the same board I'm on over here. So, all right, Rick says he's not free if he's on the defector list. Rick, throw a comment up there. I'll be glad to respond to that. If I misled anybody or said something wrong, Rick, throw your comments up. I'll be glad to share those comments and also correct whatever I said it was incorrect. I have done that from time to time. So let me know. Throw that up, Rick. Anyway, let's get on to the other things that we're going to talk about. Contacting coaches, we went through that. Okay, I want to go through the NHL list. What happens on this list is I'm going to go and I'm going to pull up the NHL. This is the central scouting for the NHL, and they've got a preliminary list that looks like this, and I'm going to pull this up a little bit. Now, this is interesting because if you're playing in the Null, you'll see some Minnesota high school kids on here, rarely the older kids. There we go. This is the central scouting list that comes out, and you might have seen this list because you'll see comments, and I hope I still have it up. I'm going to slide through real quick and see if I've got it. I don't. Okay, I don't have it up right now. But what happens is you'll see a lot of information shared about this list. And what usually happens is, I've got to get back to the list. Where did I put it? That's what happens when I got too many things open. Uh, ta- 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 ta. Okay, the list. I'll get back to it. I'll find it in a second. Let me just uh, get back up here and talk to you a little bit about this list. So, Central Scouting puts out a list, and it's usually 300 plus names. And of those 300 plus names, what happens is um, you've got all the different parts of Central Scouting. Central Scouting covers North America, and that's broken down into regional scouting, league scouting, and you've got Europe that's being scouted. All these are different things that are put into one list. Central Scouting takes all their information and they start out with a preliminary list. Now, the preliminary list is A players, B players, and C players. The A part of the list are people that are projected to be first rounders. The B, I believe, is second and third round. Might be just second, but it doesn't really matter. About 300 kids. The rest are C players, which are projected to draft, but they're going to be lower level drafts. So, what's significant about this list if you're playing and your name shows up on there? There's going to be a percentage of people that show up on the list that disappear and you never see them on any NHL lists before. Now, remember, Central Scouting, the USHL has their own Central Scouting, the NAL has their own Central Scouting, NHL has their own Central Scouting, and individual teams use that to kind of place mark and make sure they're not missing a name. But every NHL team has their own scouting department, and that scouting department gets a lot more thorough than the Central Scouting does. The Central Scouting watches, and they get a view from watching a game or a film. But what they don't do is they're not interviewing players. They're not going hard into details. They're putting a preliminary list together of players they like. Now remember, it's a accumulation of Russian scouts, Finnish scouts, wherever they're at in the world, and they're watching Minnesota high school hockey. They're watching NCAA for the younger players, because there'll be a few that are on the list that are NCAA bound. They're watching U18, they're watching prep, and they're watching the USHL, they're watching the NAL and the BCHL, and they're watching the CJHL across the board. I highly doubt they're watching any Tier 3 U.S. hockey. I highly doubt they're watching a Junior B, a Canadian Junior B, but they will watch leagues like the CCHL out of Ontario, the OJHL out of Ontario. Those leagues get they get vetted, and there's always a kid that comes out of those leagues. You can pull that list up. You can just Google the list and just put NHL preliminary Central Scouting list. It'll pop up. You can go back and look at over the years. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's a lot of information you can glean from this just on how the game works and how this game to move up the ladder works. Okay, there's 300 plus people on this list. The list that the 22-23 list, the most current list out there, here's some interesting things you probably don't know. If you break it down by average, and when I say by average per team, what league do you think is the top league for players per team getting on this preliminary list? So, the obvious guesses would probably be the OHL, which is, always a favorite league. The WHL is a hot league. The USHL, and then in any other league, the Q, whatever leagues you can think of, BCHL. Believe it or not, the league that has the most per average player, and some of you are saying USHL, a couple of you are coming in with OHL, USHL. Okay, I see you. It's not the OHL. It's the USHL. So whoever put the USHL, you've either listened to me before or you did your homework. Over 4 players per team average for the USHL. And everybody, the first thing they say is, it's because of the national program. Okay, well, let me first tell you what the average is across the board. I think I just put it on the floor here, the sheet. Let me see if it's down here. If it's not, I got it, most of it in my head. So I'm looking for the list out of all my notes from the last few days. And if I don't have it, like I said, I've got it memorized. There it is. Pardon me while I pick up this sheet. Wrong sheet. There we go. way down here. Okay, so the combined 65 teams of the major junior hockey, OHL, WHL, and the Q, the combined average is 1.72 per player. And you go, that's because the Q doesn't get that many players. Okay, maybe. The Q doesn't get that many. So what are the average of the other two? Well, the Q is about 0.69 per team. So they're less than one player per team on this list, average per team. The OHL is at 1.84. That's the average per team. And the W is at 1.81. So they're averaging less than 2 players per team off this list. NHL Central Scouting. So the USHL without the National Development Program, with the National Development Program, I said that number is over 4. The actual number is 4.375. So almost 4.4 players when you count the National Development Team who plays in the USHL. They play a regular season in the USHL. Take them out. Take out their 23 players. Every kid eligible. Let me repeat that. Every kid eligible to be on that list is on that list from that program. That's significant. That's very significant. There's no other team. There's no other team that's ever put those kind of numbers out for a single team, or it's actually 2 teams, but one's 16, one's 18, or 17 and 18. But take away that, the USHL is still at 3.13. Average per team is 3.13 versus all 3 of the other teams or the other leagues. Now, the argument can be, well, they're just diversified, they're spread out up in the major junior leagues. There are 65 teams, so there's some truth to that. You have many more options to play up there, so it could be quote unquote watered down a little bit. But the fact is, the USHL is over a player more per team average for this list. Now, the list actually breaks down pretty clear. It's 112 people coming from major junior, about 130 coming from Europe, Russia, Sweden, Finland, for the most part. Czech's got a few in there. But that's all of Europe. Every small country is included in there too. Then if you do just players that are eligible to follow the NCAA route, which is, the USHL, BCHL, NAL, all of CJHL hockey combined, Tier 2 U.S., Tier 1 U.S., you won't find a Tier 3 team on this list. I think you did a couple years ago because of the pandemic, and that's because the options for them to play in their prep school or wherever they were coming from were removed, so they went to a Tier 3 organization to fill out the season, and that happened a couple years ago. But that list of players that are still NCAA eligible is exactly the same number as the amount of players come from major junior, 112. So relatively 3 buckets of players. Europe with 130, 112 coming from major, 112 coming from the NCAA eligible programs, BCHL. And the way it breaks down is USHL 47, BCHL 9, NAL 4, then the OCHL 2, CCHL 1, AJHL 1. That's it. And once again, now that we should also mention that there's a high school component to this. Minnesota high school kids, that number is double digits too. So those high school kids are going to go play junior. Okay, most likely because they're in high school, they're going to go play USHL, NAL, BCHL. That's usually the 3 options. Those European players that are that 130 in the bucket, that list is going to all areas. And what I didn't do is the research to tell you where all those 130 players are going now. They could be playing equivalent of pro hockey in Europe. They could come over here and play major junior because they got drafted into one of those leagues. They could come play in any of the other leagues that I mentioned. So the only thing I wanted to point out is there is a viable option for Americans to follow the path that keeps them NCAA eligible, because it's part of this is where you grew up at. If I grew up in Ontario, yeah, I might want to play college hockey. That might be something I'm interested in. But boy, oh boy, there's a lot of kids that never even consider that because they want to play for they want to play for the team that they grew up watching, which is an OHL franchise. They want to wear that jersey. They want their local family there. And it doesn't bother them that they lose that NCAA eligibility because there's still money given to them in scholarship form if they go the OHL route to play not play at a college, but to attend college practically anywhere in the world. And that's as long as they don't go on and play at the AHL level or above after they get done with the O. If they can play East Coast hockey. They can play in some European leagues. They can have a 4 or 5, 6 year career and still use that college money to play. I've had several players that have played for me in the past that went on from the O, played East Coast in the East Coast League, and then jumped from the East Coast League back to Vancouver or British Columbia, some beautiful place, and went and played college hockey. A couple of them did play college hockey, but went to get their education taken care of. You can still play U sports after a pro career. You can go back and play college hockey in some of the schools. So hopefully that helped a little bit. Okay, I hear what you said here. Rick, and you're right on this. If he's placed on the defector list, he is ineligible to play on another NAHL team until released. You're absolutely right. I hear what you're saying. I was assuming that this player was not eligible to go back to the NAHL, that was looking to go play somewhere else. And remember, the NAHL list and any captivity you have towards a team, in other words, if a team has tendered you or they've drafted you, only counts for the NAHL. You can go play in the BCHL. You can go play NCDC. You can go play CCHL without any ramifications whatsoever. So thank you, Rick, for clarifying that. Okay, so hopefully that helped a little bit on explaining that NHL list. It's intriguing. I love the stats that go along with this. I love looking at the trend lines on this. It's fantastic to see how much things have changed over the year. That European list used to be all Russian, and it went away from Russia for years and years and years, and then it's trending back up with Russian players popping back in. And I don't know why, because the KHL has done such a good job. The quote-unquote equivalent to the NHL in Russia. It's not. It's a step lower, but they've got phenomenal players over there, and they do have a lot of NHL-level talent in this league. But we saw when the NHL stopped scouting Russia and spending dollars over there to develop and find players, and that money was given back to the USA in the form of USA Hockey to develop things like the National Development Program, the Women's Program, College Hockey Inc., which is a website that gives you plenty of information about the route to college hockey. The tune of about $8 million was pulled out of Russia and was put into USA Hockey to earmarked for different projects to grow the game at the elite level, both male and female. So when you look at this kind of thing, you can kind of get an idea of when I say there was a trend line, to see that Russian number coming back up, because Finland and Sweden really bounced, but Russia dropped. Now that number is coming back up, and Russia is now one of the top numbers again. Just interesting. That's all it is. It's just interesting, especially for stat geeks like me. So anyway, hopefully that helped. Let's see what else I got on the list, then I'll get to some of your questions. I think I already mentioned Junior Hockey Live. Don't forget, Wednesday nights, I give you some overview. I've got Mike Bloom on with me, so it's just not me going through this. We'll have other guests that'll pop on from time to time too, and we'll break down different leagues and give you more insight into that individual league. So that should be a lot of fun. Okay, here's a question that popped up. Can you tell me how common Instacart, but I think it means Instat, is used as a scouting tool? Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, it's very used. So Instat, for those that don't know, is a RinkNet product. RinkNet, basically it's a back end to a lot of things that happen. Elite Prospects populates a lot of information in there. Teams populated a lot of information, but I'll give you the organization I work for. I'm the director of player development, so I'm, overseeing our whole player projections. I work with the coaching staff. We project what we need over the next 2-3 years, and we're looking at players And right now for next year, it'll be anything from 03 to 06s that we're looking to tender or draft for next year. The year after that, we're looking for 04s to 07s. You can kind of see the pattern that plays out. This is a backdoor system that allows me to pull up a player, pull up any related scouting service. So it used to be ISS did it, all the backdoor stuff for Instat. ISS was a reputable brand of scouting. You still see ISS reports. If you pull up a bunch of NHL players on Elite Prospects, for example, let's just jump on here and I'll show you an example. Okay, we're back on here, and I'm just going to go up and I'm going to put Cale. If I just go, there we go. Whoever this guy is, this Cale Makar guy. By the way, he was an AJHL player. That's where he put his time and effort into. If I go down here, there's a good chance they're buried a little bit. So you got all the different companies that do scouting. Usually you'll pick up one from Elite Prospects that are usually on top of the page too. You'd have to dig a little deeper to find it, but they'd show up right here, and it just gives you a little bit of, these kind of comments up here are usually comments that are coming from Hockey Prospect, Future Considerations, ISS. Now, ISS has gone away, but all these kind of reports all are stored on the back end on this product, and this is called Instat. So USHL uses Instat. The BCHL, I believe, uses Instat. I'm positive they do. The North American Hockey League uses Instat, and most colleges are on Instat too. Why? Because you can grab video on a kid, and you can break down things on a kid fairly quickly. Now, I got to be careful because this is proprietary, meaning I don't have permission from my team to use this, but I'm going to jump on and just show you what Instat does. And what I'll do is I'll just, because I don't want to get in trouble, I'll use my son when he was playing junior. So trying to get RinkNet up right now. Okay, so here's RinkNet. And from, well, I don't know why I lost RinkNet. I had RinkNet. This popped off. Let's try it one more time. I'm going to pull RinkNet up. Here's RinkNet, and I'll get you on the screen too so you can see what I'm doing. So here's RinkNet. This is nothing. This is just a mock screen right now. But if I go in and I pull up from here, once again, I'm just going to use my son just because it's easier. He's gone. Now you can see here, I can get information on him in many different ways. Here's his basic information, and don't pay attention to this. I'm just showing you. But any game reports, stats, his contact information, his history, and his ISS reports. So that ISS report is all the reports that were written on him probably since he was 15 or 16 years old. Okay. And not every kid has reports on him. And then the last button is Instat. So you see RinkNet is attached to Instat. Now, what you can do from here is his last year in juniors was, let's see, this is 22-23. Last year was 21-22. So if we go to this year here and I want to see goals for, I clip there and I can just pull up his goals for. And it takes a second. I'm not going to show you clips, but I'm just showing you how the, okay, it's telling me not available, so maybe it was 21-22. Oh, that was last season. Let's, it should be 2021, and usually it populates here. So I'm not sure why it's not populating right now. Maybe they dropped him off the system. Anyway, normally a kid you pull up, I can pull up, and if I hit goals for that season, they're already cut for me. I can pull up every goals for that kid that I'm looking at scored. If I want to see his first assist, meaning the first assist on the play, the pass that goes to the goal, it'll pull it up for me and I can watch it. The kid's got 9 assists, it'll clip all 9 assists that are on video. Plus minus, it'll show me. And I'm just a little bit perturbed because I'd like you to see how Instat does one thing, because it'll also show you great plays and poor plays. And I'm not getting it up. Anyway, probably best for myself that I don't pull this up, because once again, I'm on the proprietary system for another team. They did not give me permission to play with this. So I probably don't want to get myself in too much trouble by trying to do this for you. But you can see that basically what it does is I can look at pretty much any player. A lot of programs at the high school level, U18 use Instat too. If they populate it and cut it into the pieces that are supposed to be cut, for example, all the NOL teams are cut. All the USHL teams are cut. And what I mean by that is, if you're on the ice for a plus minus, you get cut into that category. Your shifts get cut and counted, so you can see actually the shift count for a player in a game. You can see the heat map for a player. Where is he engaging on the ice? Where is his hits at? Where is his turnovers at? Where is his passes made? All that shows up as a heat map. I can look at that. I can look at his best plays, his worst plays, all depending on it's garbage in, garbage out. If a team is fully invested in this, and or a league is fully invested, you get great input out. You do an NHL level guy, you get some great information. Colleges, great information. It gets a little bit lower the less you go, just because of time. A U18 team doesn't have time to extract on a showcase weekend and place all the information into the right place unless they have some help, and that could possibly be the case. Is Instat used? Absolutely used. I use it daily. I'm looking at a kid will reach out to us. I jump onto Instat and see if he's got information up. Elite Prospects is used. In fact, what's interesting is today somebody sent over and somebody is promoting a new site to go to that's the latest and greatest place to get scouted. And it's offering you everything that Elite Prospects offers you. And it's the latest and the greatest. Folks, if you've got your Elite Prospect page up to speed, and you can't change the stats, okay? The one thing you can't do is go in there and change the stats. But you can change and make sure your height, weight, the way you shoot is up there. You can also now, I believe if you are part of the Premier package, you can download some video clips, okay? What they'll let you do with proof is they'll also let you put information in, like if you are part of the All-Star game at the junior level and it doesn't show up, you can put that in there. If you want a national title and it doesn't show up there, you can put that in there. They'll let you email them and correct things like that. What they won't do is change your plus minus or your goals and assists. You got to work through your team to make sure that information is completely up to speed. So hopefully that helped a little bit. I might have overkilled that a little, and so be it. It's a great topic, and it's a great area to talk about. Yes, Instat, RinkNet. Right now, there's a different group that is now taken over from ISS to do the scouting on the back end. I think we're going to have them on, and we're going to do an interview with them in the near future, so they can talk about what their role is and what they do and how they collect information. I'm not always happy with the way the information comes into there, especially for this page. Now, remember, another thing Instat does and RinkNet does, this is more of a RinkNet side, but it's very important to know this. I know where all of our scouts and our coaches are at. I know where all the games are in the nation, and I can preset what leagues I want to watch, what teams I want to watch, what players I want to watch. And I know what all of our coaches and scouts are watching. They all have their own list of players that I can observe, so I know what scouts are watching what. I know what showcases we want to project. We're projecting a staff member to be at, and what players he's going to watch there. And we get used to comparing apples to apples. How by using this product, now I know that my scout in Michigan doesn't see the world the same way that my scout in Massachusetts does. They rank a little differently. So now I can compare their rankings on kids, and when they talk, they go, "Oh no, yeah, I see him exactly the same way." But maybe one gives him a 4 and one gives him a 5 on something, or one gives him a 3 and one gives him a 4. So it also helps balance out, how your scouts see each thing, and it keeps them all in the same place. So we're able to see all that information, plus the side that ISS and RinkNet Supply, which is an outside firm to do scouting too. So hopefully that helps a little bit. The question here is, what do I think about the Bantam tournament? Let's save that one if you don't mind, Alexander. I'll get into that one at some other time. We're rolling right to the end of the process here. I'd love to get in and talk about some of the tournaments I really, really like, but not tonight. I just we're at the end of the show. Next week, what we are going to talk about, though, is we're going to talk about the bridging to U18, from U18 to juniors. Some people think that the end of the road is when you play U18, and that, if I didn't make it by U18, things aren't going to go good. We're going to look at that, and we're going to also talk about U18 transition to Tier 3 to Tier 2, sometimes to Tier 1, which is the biggest jump, sometimes the BCHL or to some of the CGHL leagues. We're going to talk about what it takes to get to those leagues, what it means to be successful in those leagues, and probably some avenues you didn't think about in the past that are very, very positive and proactive approaches to leagues that you may not have thought about. Cal McCarr, there's a perfect example. We're going to talk about some different avenues that you may not have considered in the past. And hey, look, we just went through an hour, folks. We got to some questions. I'll text a couple people about some very specific. I don't like to bring up too much when it says my son is looking for this. I try to stay away from those. So those that have you been sending me DMs on that kind of stuff, we'll wait. Alexander, I'll jump on your question next week. Don't forget, Wednesday night, Junior Hockey Live discussion is all about the different leagues, the players in the leagues, key matchups in the leagues, results from the leagues, and the players. We go into specific detail on certain players in certain junior leagues. We don't talk about the process as much. We talk about the teams, the leagues, the players, the coaches. So great difference, a great juxtaposition to this program, but it all fits in to help you understand junior hockey all that much better. And I hope that you enjoyed tonight. Please throw some comments on. If you haven't been to our YouTube page, please go to our YouTube page. We're growing like crazy on every other area. The Facebook discussion page, close to 8,000 now. But Facebook is different demographic-wise, I guess. YouTube sure could use your help. Please jump on, like, and subscribe to our YouTube page. You'll get all of our content. You'll be alerted for it. We do put content up on YouTube from time to time that doesn't make it on our discussion page, and vice versa. So, and no, we're not talking about Mitch Miller this week. We beat that horse to death from every possible angle over the last 2 weeks on our discussion group. There's great information on the Facebook discussion group, Junior Hockey Advisor discussion group, on that subject. If you want, jump on there. I am going no moss on this one because I think this is very similar to any other type of politics. If your mind's made up on one side, it's probably made up. If your mind's made up on the other side, it's probably made up. I don't really see it going much further, but we've been extremely polite to each other, and we've been extremely helpful to opening up and exposing information on that discussion group. It's been actually very polite, and as long as it stays there, if people want to discuss it more, you can. I'm just not getting involved anymore. If it gets crazy, I'll click the button, we'll shut her down. But both sides have represented themselves very well with all the information possible. If you like that kind of stuff, have at it. But I'm at this point saying we're not going to talk about it anymore on this broadcast. Have a great night, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you Wednesday, and we'll see you next week. Take care.